loses its food supply, and all of a sudden the entire species goes extinct, never to return. This may be hard to imagine, but it is a reality that we face each and every day. Every 20 minutes, the world gains about 3,500 human lives, but loses one or more entire species of plant or animal life. We need plants and animals in order to survive and balance out our ecosystem. That is why it is our job to protect the future. By understanding the importance and the history of conservation and the many different ways that we are able to take action, together we can all make a change. I would first like to give you a brief history of how conservation began. It began as an effort to protect game animals from being overhunted. Robert McCleary states in his book, Urban Wildlife Conservation, how hunting seasons began and how bag limits were developed in order to manage game species from going extinct. Then in the 1960s, the Urban Wildlife Conservation tells us how committees formed to protect the environment. The purpose of these committees was to properly ensure that wildlife programs had the insight that they needed in order to properly conserve our ecosystem. Then in the 1980s to our present day, many efforts have been taken to ensure that people understand the effects of urbanization and the importance of protecting our green space. Shaw states in the History of Conservation, in 1980, Alaska National Interest Lands Act was passed. This set aside 101 million acres of Alaska to be preserved as a national park. Derek Markham tells us about a conservation drone, complete with cameras, sensors, GPS to track deforestation, and count endangered species. It can be used for tracking and or monitoring long and short-term changes in our ecosystem. Here are some more examples of the many different ways people's innovations and creativity is also contributing to protect our wildlife. Now that you understand the history of conservation, I'd like to share with you the importance of maintaining conservation practices. It is important to realize that animals are just one part of the ecosystem. From an article written by a University of Florida graduate, Frank Mazzotti, he says animals can be used as indicators for how well the environment is doing. One example of this is the rapid decline of bald eagles. It warned us about the dangers of an insecticide being used called DDT. Supporting biodiversity in our ecosystem promotes third world countries, educates people of all ages, supports natural remedies of diseases that we don't have cures for yet. A blog writer, Andrea Athanas, explains how the African Wildlife Foundation uses animals and tourism to escape poverty and promote conservation through ecotourism. By maintaining biodiversity, we increase our chances of finding treatments to unknown cures or to unknown diseases. Now that you understand why conservation is important, I'd like to explain to you what you can do to make a difference. We all know the 3 R's and how they're important to the environment, but let's go ahead and look beyond that. As Election Day quickly approaches us, it is important to look into candidates that share the same ideas that you do about our environment. I would suggest looking into local and national politicians and how you can support their cause. Next, I would volunteer your time at a local nonprofit organization. There's one right here in Alachua County. It's called Alachua Conservation Trust. It works to protect historic, scenic, and recreational resources in and around Alachua County. The key to saving our wildlife is protecting their habitat and the quality of their environment. Last, become educated. Peter Moyle says in What You Can Do to Save Wildlife, those who strongly identify with the land that they live in are more likely to protect it against unfavorable changes. All of us live in Gainesville, and most of us have visited Paynes Prairie. But did you know that an article written by Morgan Watkins in the Gainesville Sun says that Alachua County's Commission Office is planning to allow local hunters to these conservation lands? It is important to stay educated so that we can sign petitions and make sure the nature we love remains protected for the future. These are just a few examples of how you can help support your local economy. Just remember that animal that you pictured earlier, and what a tragedy it would be if future generations never got to see this animal you love so much. By acknowledging past and present efforts to conserve, understanding why it matters, and learning how you can help, together we can change the statistics and make for a better future. Now that you all have heard the many different roles humans and technology play in the lives of animals, I hope that you will go out, get educated, and take action to preserve the few species that we do have left. Thank you.